Hi there. Today we're going to take a look at doing a bank reconciliation. This is LabChat for Chapter 4. And so let me just take you to Moodle and show you what you should have in front of you before you can start this. So let me share my screen. And on Moodle itself, in Chapter 4, I've loaded some documents for you. So you should print a blank bank account reconciliation. And then here is a document that has a checkbook ledger and a statement from the bank. And so that's where we're going to proceed. So I've got those documents here. This is from the bank, you can see that. And this is their checkbook ledger. Probably most of you don't carry a checkbook per se with you anymore and enter things as you go. So businesses do this for sure. And some of us older generation people still do this. But basically the process here today is to take a look and say, hey, here's what I think I have. Right? These are the records that I think I have. This is what I think I have in the bank. And then here's what the bank tells me I have. And then we're going to reconcile those two numbers and try and figure out why they're different and explain it. And we're going to do that on this blank checking account reconciliation. So you need, again, the documents I just showed you, and you need a pen and a calculator. So let's just start by filling in the top. So fill in these three things. Just take a second, set up the tape, look at your documents, and fill in the top. And I'll meet you back there. Okay, and so then the next thing, let me just tell you that in general, your bank's going to tell you that you have one number, and that's the number that they're showing as of today. And then you're going to think you have another number, and probably neither of them are going to be correct. Instead, you're going to find things that you need to add and subtract to both of them, and you're going to come up to a number that has to equal. So your adjusted bank balance has got to be the same as your new checkbook balance. So those two lines have got to be the same. So let's start by putting out here what number you think we have in our bank account today. So stop the tape and enter that, please. Okay, so I think that the number that I've got is right here under ending balance. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in here. So that's the first thing you do. And then the second thing that you should do is write down what you think your checkbook, what you think you have, right? So again, stop the tape, look at your checkbook ledger, and tell me, what do you think you have at the end of the month? Okay, so if you took a second and kind of looked at this, you can see it starts in September, all the transactions, and it looks like I think I have $646 and 34 cents. So that's the second number that I put in. So obviously the bank thinks I have a lot less than I think I have. And what we're going to do is reconcile those two amounts. So let's start by, I usually use a different color pen. Let me just grab one. But you can do whatever you want. But we're going to try and see if there's some things that I think happened that the bank doesn't know about, or some things that the bank knows about that I don't. So the way I'm going to try and figure out why there's a discrepancy is I'm just going to go item by item and see if they're on both documents. And if one entity knows about it and the other doesn't, then that is an adjustment. So the first thing I'm looking at the bank, deposit of $500. And then I go down here and I'm like, yeah, deposit for $500. And 597. Yeah. And yeah. So turn off the tape, please, and do that ticking. And whatever's left on either document that hasn't been cross-checked, we're going to have to somehow put in our reconciliation. So shut the tape off, please, and finish your ticking, and I'll meet you back up there. Okay, so if you finished it, you can see that there's a couple things that the bank's got that I don't. It's showing a deposit that I didn't enter. It's showing something called a BC, which is, I looked down here, it's a bank charge. So it's like my monthly fees that I didn't enter. So there's two things the bank has that I don't have. And then in the checkbook ledger or my records, which for most of you, if you don't actually carry a checkbook, would just be what you think you have. But oftentimes things have not yet crossed your bank account that you may forget about. So this is in my ledger, but doesn't look like it's cleared the bank. This is in my ledger that doesn't look like it's cleared the bank. Same with this and same with this. So really these 6 things are explaining why there's 2 different numbers and we have to make them equal. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this over and there's 2 things that can happen up here. There's checks that are outstanding and there's deposits that are outstanding. Okay, a check that's outstanding is something that I have recorded that hasn't cleared the bank yet. And a deposit, so these are going to be negative numbers, obviously. A deposit still outstanding is something that I've recorded as a deposit, but it hasn't cleared the bank. So please go turn off the tape, enter your outstanding checks, right? The check number or the date of the automatic withdrawal and the amount, tally them up, and you can see this is a deduct. So that's going to be a negative number. And then add up any deposits that you've entered in your ledger, but the bank doesn't know about yet. That's a positive number. And if you net these 3 numbers together, that's going to be your adjusted bank balance. So shut off the tape, please, and do that piece of it, and I'll meet you there. And again, so there's $320.15 of checks that I've written that haven't gone through the bank yet. So that's a negative number. That's the definition of checks outstanding. And then I can also see that I've got one deposit, and obviously it was right at the end of the period. I've got it, but it hasn't cleared the bank yet. So I need to add that in. And therefore, those three numbers together, the 397.74, because that's what the bank said I had. But they don't know about $320.15 of checks. And they don't know about a $625 deposit. So my adjusted bank balance is $702.59. On the other hand, I think in my checkbook that I've got $646.34, but there's a couple things that the bank knows about that I don't. And those are this deposit and the bank charge. So those are adjustments here. So deduct any bank service charges. And then this was a deposit I didn't enter for $59.26. So it says, note, your account is reconciled when your bank balance equals your checkbook. So hopefully now, when I tally up my checkbook, I'm going to come to the same number as what the adjusted bank balance is, and that's the true number of what I've got. I'm off by a penny, and I weirdly can live with that. So that's actually what I've got in the bank is, or that's not what I've got in the bank, that's actually what my balance is. So I hope this illustrates for you the fact that, like, when you get a bank statement, you can't just be like, oh gosh, that's my number. Nor can you just be looking at what you think you have and say, oh, wow, that's my number, because things are always in a state of flux. And it's important once a month to do something like this where you do a check-in. The other thing is if there's checks that are outstanding month after month after month, maybe somebody's lost a check that you've sent them, or maybe it's not going to be cashed, in which case you need to follow up with that. So this is definitely one of the takeaways for chapter 4. So I hope this lab chat was helpful, and we will continue working on this chapter. Okay, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn this off.